Hello again, my name's Erin Merrihew, and today I'm talking about how to get untriggered. So all of us get triggered throughout our days, whether it's a small thing that you have a disproportionately huge reaction to or a big thing that's bringing up a lot of stuff for you to work through. When we get triggered, it just doesn't feel good to us. And aside from not feeling good, it doesn't allow us to show up how we'd love to be able to show up. We can't think clearly, we can't act from those resourceful, evolved, capable parts of our brain. We're going back to those survival instincts, those impulses, those bad habits, and it just doesn't result in the behaviors that we would love or the outcomes that we would love. So what do we do in those moments when we get triggered? The most important thing to understand about our triggers is that we are experiencing pain in relation to the thoughts we're having, not the events that are occurring. I'll say that again. We're experiencing a trigger in relation to the thoughts we're having about a situation, not the events that are actually taking place. So what this means is that when we're in a triggered state, it's because a thought has been initiated that brings us a lot of emotional pain. And that thought is actually something that we can trace back and find the root of inside of ourselves and relieve some of our pain, bring us back into a more balanced state. This has a few different layers to it, and so here's what I want to recommend. I want to invite that when you notice that you are in a reactive state, that you have been triggered, the telltale signs are happening, you're losing your cool, you're getting really reactive, you notice your heart rate go up. That's a moment to breathe and to ask yourself this simple question: what am I telling myself? Now for me, when I'm triggered, there's usually many different things I'm telling myself. And if I have the space to actually take a moment to journal and literally write out what I'm telling myself about this trigger, it is so immensely helpful, because then I get to be in touch with the thoughts I'm telling myself that are actually causing me pain. Because again, somebody else's behavior doesn't have the ability to cause me pain. Their words don't have the ability to cause me pain. It's the thoughts and the interpretations I have that are really causing me pain. So that's the first layer. What am I telling myself? Now, if that's not enough to get underneath it, in some cases it will be and in other cases it won't, then you go to the next layer. So based on what I'm telling myself, then I ask myself, if that is true, what am I afraid will happen? So in this second layer, I'm really looking for the worst case scenario. What is my doomsday, worst nightmare, thing I'm most afraid of that I'm telling myself might happen if all of my original stories about this situation were true? So I'm really following my own thought process down the rabbit hole into that deep dark place to really root out what are the fears that are actually running my trigger. Now, when you uncover these fears, it's going to be very uncomfortable. This is not a comfortable process, it's not easy, but it's so worth it because it does bring us back into that place of more balance. That said, when you touch some of those doomsday stories, they're meant to be painful. Those are real fears that are living inside of you. So it's very important to go slow and to really feel the emotional impact of connecting with those stories. So I'll give you an example. One time I received an email from a colleague, and she let me know that I was no longer going to be part of a team that I was working on. And immediately I felt so triggered, and I felt simultaneous rage and shame, and I could tell that my nervous system was going crazy. Okay, what am I telling myself? So I took out a notepad, I started to write down, what am I telling myself about this situation? It was things like, well, I'm not a good enough coach, I'll never be hired for any other gigs, this person no longer trusts me. And all these kind of irrational beliefs started to come out on the page. And I already started to feel a sense of relief just kind of noticing that that's what was really driving my trigger. Then I took it to the next layer. If it's true that I'm not going to be hired for another gig, what am I afraid is going to happen? I'm afraid that my business is going to fail. And I'm afraid that if my business fails, that I'm not going to have any financial security. I might not be able to support myself. I might not survive. I mean, it really went to this level very quickly. And so then it was time for me to be really, really present and gentle with myself. Wow, I'm really afraid of these things happening. And what usually starts to happen as you touch into the emotion of those fear stories is that you very quickly see that, of course, those things are not in touch with reality. it's not actually true that just because I was not part of this particular coaching team that my business would fail. Absolutely not. But to some part of me that felt real and that triggered me, right? So I'm not going into the details of every single story that I unpacked. That's just one example. But this is a process you can use anytime you feel triggered. And it may not be accessible to you in the exact moment that you're feeling triggered, but if you go back and in hindsight, you review a situation where you were triggered, I guarantee if you walk through those steps, what am I telling myself? If that's true, what am I afraid will happen? And then being present with yourself, being gentle and compassionate as you feel the emotion of releasing those stories, you will experience relief from that trigger and you will come into a more balanced state where you can access really like more resources to be able to meet the situation at hand. All right, let me know how it goes. I can't wait to hear, and I look forward to seeing you next time.